And Kelly, will you create that again? So we're creating, what's our why? Why are we in business? And just say what you just said.
The quality relationships within the organization, where people can work through anything and end up in harmony. The kind of trust and connectedness with people, that just, I don't know, it's like you just love going to work. You love the people you work with. You live kind of an inspired day where you're at, no matter what the business is, it's that kind of environment, where people are really in the presence of appreciating one another and what they're up to. But the other part of it too, for me, is people getting what they're capable of. It's like what you were saying, Brian, about performance. It's like, oh my God, I cannot believe it. I mean, even for this year to generate, like if we had this, to me would be a big breakthrough. Like if we generated $1 million in contracts, out of the work that we've been doing, just for this year, to me, it would be a big breakthrough. It would be like, wow, look what we're capable of. And maybe for you guys, that's not a big deal, but for me, that would be a big deal, and to, have that kind of impact on people.
Yeah, there's a couple things you said there that are really interesting, and that people love the companies they work for, which can be true, but is not always true. And that's at the core of it, because what's at the core of what makes a difference is having people live the lives they love inside companies they love. And that's what we can affect. We absolutely affect that. And when people are trying to get something done inside their company, it's not like pushing another button or hooking up a different wire. It's people. And that's who we work with. That's what we impact, is people. And that's where we start. I've talked to companies about, we don't come in and try to teach you to be better engineers or better whatever. We work with the human being that shows up. You've got all the knowledge you need, but it's who you are as a human being that has an impact on each other and on the company. So that's really, that is at the core of everything. I remember Michael DeGotti, Brian, when he used to talk about the only thing we manage, and I don't think it was him that said this, but the only thing we manage is one conversation at a time. That's really what we do. And if you're the CEO of a company, that's what you do. You manage one conversation at a time. It's all about people.
I like what I just wrote when you were talking was people inspired to perform.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what I think all this is brilliant, including what you said. It's not a throwaway, Kelly. I'm aligned with the three of us. Let's play a game to do $1 million of revenue this year. I don't want to lose that. And I was thinking one of the things that the three of us have in common, and if you look at the amount of hours we have devoted with no financial reimbursement whatsoever, and you look at what lit us up when we've making a profound difference is what lights us up, right? Landmark worldwide. Now, I won't speak for you two. I have a list of complaints about how the organization is set up, and they should do this and they should do that. But I tell you, the quality of conversations that I have with a group of committed people that take on our practices and take on our work and live by it, priceless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's our why, to be able to capture what if every organization on the planet had the opportunity to work in the way that we work. We see people at a seminar, Kelly, or have people in an introduction, John, come in one way and they leave a whole different way after 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or do a landmark forum or do an advanced course.
Well, it's interesting because what we do and why we show up is because we're inspired to perform
Mm-hmm.
by what we do. So it's kind of funny that you're saying all that. And it is what Kelly just said, that we talk about what we do, except it's who we are. Mm-hmm. We are inspired to perform. It's why we're there. We want to make it. We want to make a difference for people. So, you know.
Now, I'm always looking, okay, now how do we apply things? So maybe I'm too far ahead of the creative process, but inspired to perform. What if we did some, because John, you and I are spending a day, or at least a half day, with Shane, our podcast guy, and with John, his name's John, right? The sales marketing guy?
Right.
Yeah, so Kelly, we're going to be doing that. And even talking out loud, if it works for Kelly's schedule, John, you know, we could even include Skyping her in, you know, for that.
Mm-hmm. I would love that.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking out loud, what if we did clickbait? Now, I've heard that term 1,000 times, but I just heard it on sports radio this morning. I finally got what clickbait is. Do you know what clickbait is?
Uh-uh.
Clickbait is you come up with some terms that you put out on the internet, sexy terms that it's like when you fish, you want bait to catch the fish. So clickbait, you put these terms out that you want potential buyers to click on. So they come to our website, or they come to our article, or they come to our podcast, or they come to whatever we want to direct them to. So we could even do things like, I don't know how clickbait works. What you need to do, you can ask your person, Kelly, we can ask our guys, Wildfire. But there's some terms we could put for search engine optimization, John, that Wildfire could, you know, breakthrough business results, inspired to perform. I love my employer. You know, I don't know, we come up with a dozen of them, but where they lead you to is us. So we start to get in front of people, or we start to give them things like our podcasts.
Well, that is what we have been doing. I mean, that is what the whole purpose of, you know, if you click business, what was it I looked at? Business Coaches Calgary, we come up number 1 on the search engine because of all of this work that we've already been doing.
Yeah.
Where we aren't, I think, is our clickbait, if you will, isn't necessarily the language that people are searching. You know, like, for example, you could go out, you know, transforming your organization, and people are not searching that. They're searching change management, or they're searching mergers and acquisitions, or they're searching integration. So the money is trying to figure out what the words are that people are familiar with using that speak to them. So yeah. I don't know. I'm agreeing with you in a way. And we have to be careful about putting words out there, because if we put words out there that don't mean anything to anybody, then they're not searching for it, so they won't find us.
I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm noting it for when we're with the revisit with John. The market is what.
100%.
Yeah.
Violent agreement.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also rethinking, guys, and I know this might be blasphemy, Kelly, but the Being a Leader program may not be the vehicle for us to get to $1 million in revenue in 2019. And here's why. I look at the man hours to deliver it. That's 6 days. And if you divide the calendar up and with the number of weeks in between and the pre-calls and then the follow-up, maybe we could deliver 4 a year, maybe 6 a year. Is that right? So let's say 6 a year times 30 people at $5,000 each.
That's 900 grand.
Yeah, that's 900 grand. Okay. But that leaves you nothing for a large scale engagement. You know, what if one of these people say, okay, now we want you to come in and deal with our company, right? It would be a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Well, but then can we actually do 6 in this year? If we look at in reality,
I can.
yeah, you can. But can you do 6 at 30 people
Yeah.
each? Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I cut back on my public courses to make sure I was available for that, just in case Earl says, hey,
Okay.
which by the way, there's one in Orlando.
There's an Earl's in Orlando. Yeah, great. Great, great. Yeah. Okay, well, maybe that is our vehicle. Maybe I just talked myself out of it. Is that what our
What if we had 40 people in or 50?
Yeah.
Because if there's the 3 of us with Katie, we could actually do that because we could do some divide and conquer kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because I do think for it to be profitable, we would have to do it that way. We'd have to divide and conquer a little bit more. You know, like one of us leading a call.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than all 3 of us on the call. You know what I mean? You know, Katie facilitating the calls.
Yeah.
But like, let's say I have a group that I'm doing their 3 calls. You have a group, you're doing that. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, then what's it going to take for, aside from Earl's, and I'm making a note to follow up on Earl's, aside from them, and they could be the slam dunk, you know, I mean, they could give us 6 at 30 or 40 people, but they're not going to pay 20, they're not going to pay 5 either. They're going to pay 2,500.
Yeah. So we definitely have to divide and conquer on that.
Yeah.
But you know that Rob, you know, he was one of the head trainers for Lululemon.
Yeah.
And, you know, so he could be an entree into maybe something with Lululemon.
Yeah.
Well, and Joe with MEC.
Yeah. Well, I got to get to Joe. That's my number one takeaway here. I wonder if, John, who would be the best one out of the 3 of us to do it, including Katie or Jamie? But if we looked at 365 days and we looked at 6 being leaders and we looked at pre-call, 2 calls in between, and a post call, how would that actually map out inside of 2019? I mean, any one of us can take a calendar and do it, right? And the starting point would be.
Or you'd have one, you'd be delivering once a month. Like you'd start a program, then you start another program, then you complete this program, then you complete that program, then you start another program. I think it would be every month.
Okay.
Doing something, and there'd be a month in between the 6 days for each one, because you had 6 sessions and you break it into 2, we got 12 months. So you'd be basically doing it the whole time. You'd be doing 1 a month at a minimum. I mean, you could do more in a month.
Okay. And then.
But I think at that 2,500 with Earl's, you're going to definitely want to have at least 30 people in each one.
Yeah. All right. Well, we need.
I'm getting excited.
Yeah. From that classic line in Jaws, we need a bigger boat. We need more calls too. We need to keep this going.
Yeah. The interesting thing about it is that you can reach 100 people to get 25 in the Being a Leader program. Or you can talk to 25 people and get 1 customer. who pays you 100,000. So I still am on the side of, I don't think being a leader is the moneymaker. I think being a leader is a marketing plan. And I don't know that you could fill 6 a year. I mean, that's a lot of people to put through a program if you're trying to get 30 at a time in a market like ours. Now, maybe in a bigger market, bigger city, we don't have a lot of them.
But you're talking, I think what he was talking about was 6 in-house, not 6.
Yeah, if it's 6 in-house, then that's a different ballgame for sure.
I didn't even think it through. I wish I were that smart. I was just saying 6, but I think you're right on, John. It would take a machine like, doing 4 landmark forums and 2 advanced courses in Calgary a year takes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it takes like 50, 60 people, but that's production and everything else. So John, just finish that thought then. What would you advocate that our approach be then?
Well, I like the idea of the in-house courses. So if you could do them for Joey, that's great, because then we can, manage costs, and we can do it in a certain way that makes sense. Or Earls, whichever. Those are different. I was thinking of the public courses. The public courses are, try to get 30 people in a public course. In our market, I think would be difficult.
Well, then maybe, John, we'll earmark when we're with John, the marketing guy, how could he market being a leader in Canada for in-house programs in Vancouver, Calgary, and Toronto?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and Florida.
In Florida, excuse me. We were going to bring you up.
Yeah. This is a good destination for people.
That's right.
Naples is a beautiful area, and I have a relationship with the Marco Island Hilton, which is where I'm doing my women's retreat this year, and it's a beautiful, intimate property that would be so great. Like if because if I could do the leadership program there, and we knew you guys had the dates for my public courses down here, you are more than welcome to have people come down here, and we can wine and dine them, and you guys can lead them with me. Do you know what I mean? So that could be included in that.
Sure. Okay.
Is there, and I know that there's a cachet with being a leader. Is there an opportunity to run a 3-day program that's a 3-day program that is impactful for people, just like the Mastering Performance program that you do in-house? Could you do a program like that? I'm
biased. We already do have that, and we'd show it to you, Kelly. You'd recognize a lot of the components of it, but our 3-day program, clients love it, and it has been impactful.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking is if you did that as a public course, you could probably still charge $5,000 for it. It's 3 days, that's a lot. Or $4,000 or something, but
I have the old version. Jonathan gave me kind of his older version several years back. I know every Technico conference he added to it.
Yeah.
I don't have the updated version of that. And I don't know if you guys you made some changes to it?
We've made quite a few changes from the very first version he gave us, because we have a whole, how do you take it back to work, and how do you how do you take the Merlin exercise, and then how do you put that into existence? And then we leave them wanting more, because we would work with you over the next year to have that be realized. But they walk out like, wow.
And if you were doing that as a public course, Brian, and you did that Merlin exercise, that's where people would start to get in touch with what's missing inside their organizations, depending on how you crafted it. And that would be almost an intro into doing something with them inside the company.
You think that's a better marketing opportunity than the leadership program, is what you're saying?
Well, I think you can get people interested in 3 days a little bit more easily than 6.
Yeah. I think that sounds interesting. I have my Reinventing the Future program that's 2 days, but I do think the missing component is exactly what you guys are talking about. Where they're really leaving in action in a very powerful way. That's what's missing in the 2 days.
Well, I have to say something I said to Brian before we started doing the Being a Leader program, and I go back and forth on it, but
I'm sorry, I have to go. My client's at 1:30. I'm just seeing the time.
Oh yeah, we do have to go. Well, let's follow up on this again, because I think it's a really rich conversation.
Let's keep going on this on Monday. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. Bye.